Okay, guys, so we're going to be doing something very important today, and today we're going to be looking at some of the basics of Python programming, okay? And yes, some of the basics of Python programming. So Python is a programming language that is used for data science, machine learning. Excuse me. And I want you to understand that for you to get started with machine learning, you must learn Python programming language. And I'm going to explain to you some of the some of the basics, that you need to know for you at least to get started. Okay, so this class is going to be a very practical oriented class. I've already slashed it in bits. Maybe in my future sessions, I'm also going to look at other parts, but it's just going to be a quick explanation, building on what I've already done before. Now, but why do we use Python? Now, Python is very powerful because machine learning models predict, disease outbreaks or whatever kind of patterns it wants to understand from your data. And remember in our first session, we already talked about kind of some data types, and where we talked about numerical, categorical, continuous, and all of that. But the point is that you need to actually understand variables, data types, comments, and how to essentially, put in the right parameters into that's into your notebook, because before now I've already explained how to install your notebook using the necessary code. So after this session, probably if there are unclarities, I'll be very much available to make some kind of provide some insights on that. Okay. So variables, what are variables? So variables are anything that holds, that we use it in storing data, organizing your information. Then data types are just some kind of logic, how we present, information from our, kind of variable type. Okay. So think about variable as a container, and the contents are reusable. So I'm going to show us real quick. I will open my VS Code. So more like this is my virtual environment. Okay. And for this course, I'm going to be explaining using this Visual Studio Code environment. I already made a video on how to install one. And I'm just going to create a new file. So I'm just going to call this file. I'm going to call this file. Like most of the work is done on day by day. So I'm going to call this practice, okay? Don't worry, I would explain how you can roll about this. Okay, I'm just trying to open that. Sorry, just trying to click on that. So just a second. Okay, I just want to know why. All right, so that should work now. So this is our environment where we are going to be writing our code, okay? So because I'm going to be working with a Python file, I can write this practice.py, okay? And I'll use Shift Enter. I'm going to press Enter. Now, automatically, this is going to give me the environment where I'm going to be writing my program and all of that. So for the sake of this session, I'm also going to create another file. I'm going to create another file where we use for machine learning. I'm going to call these second.ipynb. So what this stands for is Interactive Python Notebook. I'll make a video on how to set up your environment and what these extensions actually mean. So this is more like, think about this as your kind of, maybe you want to take a photo and your photo is being stored in JPEG, right? Or you have an Excel file, it's .xls or .csv and all of that. So anytime you want to create a file for machine learning, you want to run it on a Jupyter notebook, just like I've talked about in my previous session, it must end with this extension, okay? The extension must be IPYNB. What this means is Interactive Python Notebook. For this one, this is a normal Python file, so it ends with PY. If you're running on a C++ file, let's say, for example, you want to write something on the C++, you can say, let's say, manage anything. You can just call it program, okay, .cpp, okay? So you see, this is for C++, and I'm going to hit enter. Automatically, it will ask me to install the extension for C or C++. So this is how it works for C. And if it's for JavaScript, you can use JS. So these are several programming languages with several extensions, okay? I am not running any file on C++. I am just going to be using this interactive Python notebook that we'll be using mostly for machine learning. So I'm just going to just close that. And okay, so I'm going to open this. So I selected my kernel. I explained this in my last video, so you have to watch my last video to actually have an understanding of how to select your kernel and your environment, your virtual environment. So let's go back to the lecture. Now, what's a variable? A variable is a container that you use in storing your label, okay? Let me just keep this very clear. So, for example, you could have a variable like this. I can say age is equal to, I'm 26 years old, okay? Now, since I'm 26 years old and I say print age, okay? So it's going to print my age. So age here is a container. This is the variable age. And this is what we call a data type. And this is what we call an assignment operator, okay? So I'm going to just write it out. We have our variable, which is our age. And then we have what we call here, 26 is our data type. And then equal to means our assignment operator. Now, what are you going to observe now is that these things that I put here now are comments. I'm going to talk about this later on in the video, okay? But I just wanted to just understand that in programming, in Python programming, we always have what we call a variable that we use in doing in assigning or holding information. So each time we mention age, if I go down and say age plus 1 and say print, or maybe let me just put this inside a container. Let me put it inside the print function. It's going to print 27, right? So let me comment this out and run it again. It's going to print 27. Reason being that age is a container that is holding the data type 26. So that is why we call it a container, okay? So yes, that is what it is. So on the course of your machine learning journey, you're definitely going to be writing a lot of code that will require you to store, variables and all of that. So that's what a variable is, okay? So age is a variable. So yeah, that's it. So it can be reusable. You see that I used it again when I did age plus 1. So I use the variable age again. I can use age times 3. I can say anything and all of that. So that's just that. So basically, I just created that. I talked about what's an assignment operator. So what are various assignment operator equal to? Okay. So this tells you how you want to store age. Okay. So I could go back there again. I could say something like name is equal to Christabel. Okay. And now what it means is that this is my assignment operator. This is my variable. This is the name. Okay. So if I come down and say print name, okay, it will print what? Christabel. All right. So that is how it works. this is what we use in assigning variables, okay? So each time we want to assign another variable, if we say a name is equal to David, okay? Automatically, it will now overwrite the first one because I have now assigned another thing to this container. So it will print the last one that I stated. If I come here and say name is equal to maybe I say David and Christabel. Automatically again, it will do what? To overwrite it. So that is what we call what? Variables and containers. Okay, so this is a variable, this is a data type, this is also a data type. So we'll talk about data type shortly once we understand what a variable is. So there are also other things. I can say something like CGPA is equal to 4 point. If I finish with a 4.51, I'm going to say, now watch, I'm going to say print. Okay, let me comment out this. Let me call this so name, okay? So I'm not going to say something like print. I'll say print. I could say here, print name plus. Now, for me to concatenate, I mean, I want to print something like Christabel David has a CGPA of 4.51. Now, we can use what we call an F string. Yeah, check them. So I could use, yes, I could use something like an F string here. Or then let me just keep it simple. I could say name plus okay. I think I could just use then I could say surname. Okay. Then I wanna say has a CGPA of I. Okay, yeah. Of CGPA, okay? And I could run that, okay, oh, what's the problem? Okay, I forgot the comma here. Now, I just purposely inserted all of this here, right? Now I can now one of the things why I inserted this now is just to show you one or two things, right? So you can actually see how I separated this, right? Christabel plus David has a CGPA of 4.51. So if I can just take out this. Okay, so that to be more clear. So you see Christabel David has a CGPA of 4.51. So this is how we create variables. Okay, you see that this is a variable, this is a variable, this is a variable, surname is a variable, CGPA is a variable, age is a variable. So so that is basically how it is. And then we use the print function. So yeah, we're going to actually talk about more while we move on. So we have our values. So yeah, a lot of things can be stored in a variable. You can print as many variables as possible, okay? I'm just going to keep it very simple. Now, printing variables to see result. I already talked about the print function. So for you to see an output, which we just illustrated here, right? For you to see this output, you need to use the print function. And that is just what we did here, okay? I can actually say, I could just randomly say something. Could say, okay, let me just level, I could say level of income is equal to, maybe I could just print 45,000 naira, okay? And I can now say now, for me to display level of income, I now print level of income. Automatically, you see what? 45,000. I could just put something like that. Say here, my level of income is, so you see that? So you see, I still got strings here, and then I'll have my variable to display. So anytime you want to display your variable, you could say age, you could say mother's name is equals to Margaret. Okay. I'll say print. So for me to display my mother's name, I'll say print mother's name, and that's it. So that's it. So I can say number of baskets is equal to 67. I could say print number of baskets. So I can't say anything like print 67. If I say print 67, to just print 67, the number 7. You can't print the variable. So it is the variable that you're going to print to give you what is stored inside of it. So that's basically how it works. So definitely we're going to see a lot of things. Reassigning variables, I did show that where I did names equals to Christabel, later I assigned name as David and it changed. And yeah, so that's how it works. And a lot of that definitely going to see that. So we're going to look at data types, right? We have what we call integers, floats, strings, and booleans. Now, I'm going to talk about integers. What are integers? So integers are whole numbers without decimals. Floats are numbers with decimals. Strings are text enclosed in quotes, like name of hospital, mother's name, your name. Then booleans are true or false, okay? Now, I'm just going to show that quickly. Now here, let me just assume I just want to print here. And I could just say, I want to print, first of all, an integer. So what's an integer? Is a whole number. So age equals to 102 years is an integer. I can't add anything like years here. It's bad. I can't do that. Okay? I can't do that. If I want to do that, I can also say print something like age. Then I'll now do a comma, then put years. So this is the only way I can do something like that. Okay? Instead of it, I'll append a string. But I cannot assign that here. Now, what's another type of integer? Integer data type. Remember, we're looking at integer data type. Another type of integer can be maybe you can say number of x's. Okay, is 7. Okay, print number. So automatically, while you're writing, you see Python is going to give you some kind of auto completion. So to print this in a Jupyter notebook, I usually use Shift Enter. Automatically, it's going to print it here, okay? So for me to be sure that this means number of x's, I could just come here and put this. And I will say, remember, watch what I'm doing. I'll say number of x's is. Now, by doing this, now it means that this is going to just print out this string for me and then give me what is being stored inside of this variable. So I'm going to go press Shift Enter, and it's just going to give me this number of x is 7. Now, if I change this to 18 and Shift Enter, it will change. If I change this to 190, it will change. If I change what's inside of this container, remember this is a variable. If I change it to maybe something else like 8.9, that's going to change as well. Now, but this is not an integer, so we're going to leave it at what? 8. Now let's look at another type of data type, which we call the floats. Now, when we talk about floats, floats are what? We explained it here in our slide to be what? Decimal types like temperature reading, resistance rates, and all of that. So if we have something like temperature as a variable, and we assign it to 34.6, okay? So if I come here to display my output print, okay, let me just comment temperature is, I'll now put a comma and I'll now call the variable. Temperature is at 4.5. So this is a what? A float. Okay, if I change it to 67.4, it will change. If I say body weight is equal to maybe 76.4, print body weight. So this is what a float. Now let's look at another type of data type, which we call the strings. So strings are just like texts, okay? Strings are text. So if I say name is equals to Christabel, okay? So print my name is, okay, semicolon, comma, name. Automatically, my name is Christabel. If I change this, now remember, you must wrap it with what? Double or single quote. So what do I mean? If I wrap it with a single quote, sorry, if I wrap it with a single quote like this, it's still going to give me the same thing, okay? Let's try it from another plot now. Say, okay, marital status, okay? And I'm going to say this is, I'll use a single quote and I'll say Igbo. If I say print marital, it's going to print. So you can use the double quote or single quote, but I prefer to use the word double quote. So marital status. What did I just write? Marital status, single. Oh, I think that's the right word, okay? So that is just what it is, okay? So all these are strings. So you could see something like, maybe a name of, let's say, for example, patient status, okay? And you use a string, say positive. So when you print patient status, it will give you what? If you remove this quote here and you print, it's going to throw up an error. Positive is not defined because this is already a variable. So you're trying to assign it to positive. And there's no place where there's a variable called positive. But then your intention was just to have this as a what string. Okay? So you have to put that and print it. So that is what we call what? Strings. So yeah, it could be hospital name, anything. So booleans are true or false variables, okay? And this is just going to be tricky. So most times we have what we call is available. Is my Valentine gift available? I could use true. Now remember, if you want to do this, you must use the word. You must use true as a capital what level. So if you say print is available, it's going to print what's true. Now I'm just going to show you something where another way how this Boolean variables work. So it can actually be true or false. I'm just going to go a bit into logicals now. Now let me just say something like name or let me say age is equal to 67. If age, for example, is greater than 50, okay, print okay, I could just say print age greater than 50. It's going to return true. Now, the reason is because, now, why I actually said this is because for Boolean variables, sorry, for Boolean data types, you know, sometimes we use that, we float them with what? Some kind of comparisons and logic. So the reason why it's printing true is because age is what? Greater than what? 50. Now, if I say age is less than 50, it's going to print what? False. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying is that so you know that Boolean data types is not just when you assign this like this, right? And yeah, so that's actually that. So I'm going to show you another way how we can, so I can actually say something like is Valentine's gift available? Okay, false. Let's use false. I'll say print is Valentine's gift available. Okay, shift enter, false. Okay, so these are what we call what Boolean what data type. Now I'm just going to show you something, something so slight. Okay, I just told you how integers are, you know, numbers, you know, how you can actually perform some kind of, you know, small arithmetic with that. Patience, this, and all of that. So you can actually perform mathematical operations. And I'm just going to do that in a jiffy now. So I could just say age is equals to 78. Um, new age is equals to 7. We're going to say print age times age plus new age. Okay, so it's going to give you 85. So what are some of those arithmetic operators? So we have addition. Okay, so that's plus. We have subtraction. Then we have division. Okay, we have multiplication, and we have what we call modulus, and a lot of them. So I'm just going to keep it very simple. So this is just a basic arithmetic. So if I put times here, multiplication is going to give me 5, 4, 6. Okay, and I could do something like x is equals to 78, y is equals to 67, print x raised to power y. Okay, that's x times y. So let's see what it's going to give you. So this is it. See what it gives us. All right, so that's it. And I'm just going to put this way, and yeah. So basically, we can perform a lot of our mathematical operations in Python. Okay, all right. So subtraction, division, and all of that. So you can see how I'm assigning my variables. Patience, B. I make sure I start with lowercase and all of that. But we're going to see something in our next slide. So the same thing also applies with floats. Floats are decimal numbers, and yeah, basically, yeah. So I also talked about strings. You can have hospital, you can have antibiotic, patient's ID, diagnosis, drug, lots of things. But this is just more of, we're looking at naming conventions, okay? Yeah, so anything for a string. And I also talked about concatenation, right? Concatenation. So where did I talk about concatenation? I mentioned about concatenation at the beginning here, where I said something like, okay, I'm just going to show you that again. You say, name is Christabel. Christabel, surname is Okoro. Okay, so I'm going to use Okoro. Remember, this is a string. It's not an integer. And then best. Now, I'm not just going to say best food equals. Now, this is wrong. You see, Python is going to mark a linter here, syntax error. Reason because I've separated it. But for me to use multiple words, I have to join it with an underscore. Okay, so I could say best food is rice. I can capitalize it rice. Now, what do you mean by concatenation? I can say print. I will say here, her name is, comma, I'll put name. Her name is Christabel, comma, Okoro, surname, comma, and sorry, I'm not going to say, I'm going to say, and her best food is, comma, I'll not put best food. So when I print this, her name is Christabel Okoro, and her best food is rice. So this is the data type. This is the data type, string data type, the string data type. And yeah, so if I can actually add age here to be 24, I'm sure you guys are kids. And then I can say her name is Christabel, okay? Aged, comma, 20. No, I'll say age, comma. Okay, so what I'm doing here now is I'm basically concatenating several string types, okay? And I'm just gonna run that, and you see her name is Christabel Okoro, and her aged 24, and her best food is rice. Okay, so that's just what you need to know about strings. That's string concatenation. Okay, so yeah, this is basically string concatenation. So I could still use something like plus, you know, that works, but using comma, you know, it still works as well. Okay, what I mean by that is if you look at my slide here, this could be something like a plus, and then I have this, and plus, and plus, and plus, plus. Now let's see what will happen now. Now you can't concatenate strings with what? An integer with string. Now the reason why you threw up this error is because age is a string if we are using this style. So what we might have to do now is, let's say we just take out this age now and put the plus here and run it. It's going to run, right? And I could just Christabel Okoro. So what I can do here now is I can just create a space here and put plus, so that that space will not show. So you see that here, but it's still showing here. And I'm just going to create that as well. And put the plus here. Okay. And you see that's it. Now, but how about if I now want to now introduce age? Now I could use possibly an F string, which we're going to talk about later on, but I don't want to complicate this video, okay? I don't want to keep it very simple. At this stage, you can use you know, the commas that I used. It still works very, very, very well, okay? All right, so okay, so yeah, that's it. So I think the same thing actually applies to booleans, just like I explained. You know, we use true, false, and all of that. And this is something we are really going to be very conversant with as time goes on. Now, one of the things I want you to understand about boolean is that the boolean data type for the boolean. So just get this, that the boolean data type true most times is going to be 1, and false is going to be 0. Okay, so this is actually an important take home to have. Yes, about the boolean, you know, data type. Okay, all right. And then we're just going to check our data. How do we check the type of our data? Because basically I told you some of them are of class, string, float, string, and you know, boolean. So now how do we check that? Sorry, excuse me. Now let's assume I want to check the data type of all of these variables that are here, right? And I have something like here, maybe let me add maybe is available here, and I set it as true. I'm just going to check it this way. We use the type method, type function. We'll say type, then I'll pass in my name. Then we'll say again print the type for surname. I'm going to check that. I'm also going to print the type, and I'm also going to pass in here best food. I'm going to print the type. I'm going to have age. I'm going to print. No, want to know the type of variable. If I didn't stop, let's say if we're just getting started with it, and then let me just add CGPA here at 78.9, and they want to know the type of, what type of data type is that. So pass the type variable inside of it, and CGPA. I'm going to run it. So you see that the first one is a string, just like as I mentioned. This is it. The second one is a string as well, just like I mentioned. Third one is a string. Fourth one is an integer, which is a number here, age, an integer. This is a boolean, bool, for this, and this is it. And the last one is a float. This is a type of float, and this is a float, okay? So this is just basically what I explained, but this is the convention, how we use in checking the data type in Python. Now, I just told you about some of the naming conventions that you're going to be using when you're working with Python, because we're definitely going to be working with a lot of data sheets. You don't give this kind of space. You don't start with a number. You don't start with you don't use this kind of dash. You need to understand that Python is case sensitive. Now let me just explain that in a jiffy now. Now let's assume you're programming, you're trying to work with your data set. I can start with something like one name is equal to Christabel. I can't do that. That is wrong. Okay? That is wrong. Rather, I'm going to say name is equal to what? Christabel. Now, I'm not going to say something like, if maybe I want to say malaria cases is equal to, maybe I will not say positive. Now, this is wrong. Now, let's see what will happen when I try to run this. Now, remember, to run it, you use Shift-Enter. So I'll press Shift-Enter on my laptop. I say invalid syntax. Now, the reason is because this is not a proper way of naming your variable. So you need to use a what? An underscore if it's a longer word, okay? Yes. Now, it's not, if you say malaria is equals to present. Of course, when you print malaria, it's going to run, but it's not usually advisable to start with an uppercase, okay? It's usually advisable for you to start with the what? Lowercase. Anytime you're going to be naming any variable while you're programming in what? Python. Please, it's very important. And I've already detailed all the documentation of how you should sort your variables. Don't start with numbers. Don't give spaces without underscore. Don't use this hyphen. Make sure it's clear. Use in the lowercase. So yes, follow the snake case. So what we call the snake case is the underscore. And yeah, so I think basically this explains a lot of insights on how you need to do your naming convention. So please, it's always very important you spell out the names clearly. You see, I'm not using something like X is equals to this. Patient age, spell it out clearly. You don't use short words. Make sure you're very clear in your naming convention. Please, whenever you're assigning any variable, it's very important because it will help you to remember. It will help you to always know what you assigned it to, and it gives you a lot of clarity in what you're doing. So what are comments? Now, comments are what we use in showing codes. Now, if you look at my code here, you see that all of these things here, each time I run my code, right? If I run print age and all of this part does not run. Now, why doesn't this part run? Because this is a comment. This is the part that makes it possible for me to jot down things, make it readable. So that each time I share this code to you, it's easier for you to read it. And also, because I'm definitely going to be sharing this on my GitHub, Git repository, for you to be able to do what? Right code. So each time you put an hash in the beginning of any code, automatically is a what? It's a comment. I've made also a video where I explain in details multi-line comments and all of that for you to get started programming in Python. So comments helps you to document your code. It helps in making it very easy for us to read and all of that. So yeah, so I'm just going to leave you some kind of practice exercises. And yeah, there are a lot of beginner mistakes, wrong naming conventions, and all of that. So these are just some of the key takeaways that you need to know. And yes, basically, I'm just definitely going to see you in the next session for our session, for our class. So I want to say a very big thank you to you for making it out to be this very basic session for getting started with Python. See you in the next class.